Hi, my name is Lorena. I'm a spiritual life coach and a breathwork teacher, and I'm primarily focused on Neville Goddard's teachings. And I'm here to help you shift your state of being and recreate your reality. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can check out the description box below. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want videos like this every week. So today's video is kind of long overdue, because it's such a basic concept of what this channel is really about. Because today we're talking about living in the end, how to live in the end of your wish fulfilled, essentially the core of how to manifest the things you want, and how that correlates to states and to your self-concept and why it's important to get it right, essentially. We're also going to talk about what people misunderstand or what they don't get right. And if you're completely new to any of this and you have no idea what I'm talking about, I suggest you check out my video about the summary of Neville Goddard's teachings, because that explains all the core concepts, and I will link that below, and I will also put an info card above my head so you can click on that too. So first things first, before we're going to talk about what it means to live in the end and why to do it and how to do it, I want to make one thing very clear, and that is that living in the end is not a manifestation technique. Let me explain why. Manifestation techniques are often designed to get you somewhere, which implies the idea that what you desire doesn't already exist and what you desire isn't already here. It implies the idea that your desire is somehow separate from you and something to get or to work towards. But if you've seen some of my other videos, you will know that I'm really big on self-concept and on states. And I will link the videos on that below as well if you want to find out more. But basically, the reality you experience and the circumstances that you have, that you perceive in your reality, are a reflection of your state of being and your self-concept. So they are a reflection of your internal state. They are not separate from you. Nothing is separate from you. So there is nothing to get, there is nothing to attract. You simply need to shift into a state of being where your perception changes, where your desire is already a present reality internally. It doesn't need to be reflected in the physical immediately, but internally you feel it as done. And feeling it as done, feeling it as real right now, is kind of the same as living in the end of your desire, living in the end of your wish being fulfilled already. So in that sense, living in the end is not a technique because it's not a means to an end. It is a state that you embody. And when you're in that state, when you're living in the end or from the end result, then there is nothing to get anymore. The desire disappears because you feel it done so strongly. So let's get a bit deeper into this. What is living in the end and what does it mean to live in the end? So when you're living in the end, you're living in and from a reality and from a perception where whatever you desire is already a done deal. It's already happened. It's already unfolded. It's present reality for you. And when you enter that state, when you enter the state of the wish fulfilled, and when you feel your desire as done, as present reality already, then you will go through your life completely differently. You will have a different perception on circumstances and people. You will react to circumstances and people differently than before. You feel differently. You have different thoughts. You talk to yourself and to others differently. You even treat your fears and your doubts differently whenever they do show up. And the magical and amazing thing about living in the end is that when you're in that state and you feel that it's already done, you stop looking at your current circumstances as something to fix. You stop seeing problems. You stop questioning when the thing you want is going to happen, how it's going to happen. If it's going to happen, you stop analyzing and overthinking and asking questions, and you stop stressing. Think about whatever's present in your life right now, whatever is such a present fact for you that you never question it. Do you think about it all day? Do you recite affirmations all day? Do you worry about it not being there? Do you worry about it not arriving? Do you crave it? Do you long for it? No, because you already have it. Because it's already such a solid reality for you. You're not stressed, you're not worried, you're not perceiving anything else. You're not even thinking about it. whatever is a present reality for you, be that internally or externally, is whatever end result you're living from. So when you live in the end, you stop waiting, you stop wishing, you stop wanting, you even stop thinking about your desire because it's a present fact for you. And that means you can surrender. You can surrender to whatever's arising for you. You can surrender to all your emotions. You can surrender to every thought that arises. You can just let it float by. You can surrender to all the circumstances. You don't worry about what people are doing. And another important thing to remark, and this kind of goes back to the idea that sometimes living in the end is perceived as a technique, which it is not, is that living in the end is not being delusional. You don't have to deny what's currently going on outside of you. You don't have to pretend something that's happening physically isn't happening. You don't have to stress about what you're saying to people, because everything that you're doing and saying and thinking and feeling is coming from the state you're in anyway. So if you try to control the words you're saying to other people based on that being the state you think you should be in, you have it backwards. Think about things you have manifested in the past. And if you're new to conscious creation and conscious manifestation, you can think about things that you have manifested unconsciously. Don't even listen to me or anybody else. Just think back to the things that you have created for yourself and how that came about. Think about how you felt about the thing, how much you stressed, how much you worried, how you were thinking or feeling about it, how you spent your days. And think about it in a way, how did you do those things when it came about? Obviously, when you have a desire, initially, you will be in a state of wanting, and that's completely fine. That's how desires come about. But eventually, you must have shifted into surrender, into relaxation in some way, shape, or form. So it's not stressful, and it's not about acting as if or playing pretend. This is why it's so important that it's an internal state. So to give you an example for this, if you want to manifest $100,000, let's say that's what you want to create. When you live in the end of that, of having that already, that doesn't mean that you're now going to go about your day spending thousands because you want to pretend as if you already have $100,000. It doesn't mean you have to be irrational or irresponsible with what you have in your physical circumstances right now. But internally, it means that you will not be stressing about, oh my God, I have no money. Oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? Because internally, you know it's done. That is living in the end versus the other scenario of acting as if or playing pretend. Now let's talk about how to do and how to live in the end. So before I give my own input here, I'm gonna quote the wonderful, amazing Neville Goddard, who said, "What do I want? Now, what would it be like if it were true? Now catch that mood and try to give that mood all the sensory vividness of reality, all the tones of reality, and then sleep in it, just as though it were true, and then await the inevitable." So here Neville already gave a technique, an actual technique, how to enter the state of the wish fulfilled, how to live in the end. And that is his favorite technique of all time. If you read his books, you will see this. The state akin to sleep. Imagining, visualizing in a drowsy, kind of meditative state just before you drift off to sleep. Reason being is that is where your subconscious is most accessible and where it's most easy for you to convince yourself of new facts, of new assumptions, of a new reality. So here you have it. First technique that you can use is visualization. You don't have to do it in a drowsy state, but you can if you want to. What is always suggested is to imagine a scene after the fulfillment of the desire rather than just before or just during. This is because when you imagine a scene that is already after the fulfillment of your desire, you stop thinking about how it could come about. You stop analyzing those little details. You stop trying to micromanage. Because all you want to do really is to land in the feeling of it is done. This has happened. This is done. This is my reality now. The next technique that you can use is affirmations, which I have a video on how to use affirmations effectively as well, which I'm going to link below. This is how you can get yourself into the state of being where what you want has already happened too, by affirming its reality now. I personally don't really use affirmations for manifestation, but I do use affirmations for self-concept work. But it is completely up to you which technique resonates with you, if any, because really you don't even need to use any technique. You can just ask yourself, how would I feel if this was my reality now? And then go about your day, live your life, not overthink about it, not stress about it, not constantly worry about doing something wrong, because if it was your reality, you wouldn't worry about it anymore. And what's important too is make it fun, you know? Don't create so much pressure around it. Don't think about it constantly. Play with it. Do it because it feels good. Don't do it to make something happen. And then move about your day. Continue with your day. Continue with your life without constantly stressing about it. That's not what persistence is. Common misconception. So take the pressure off. You don't need to actively do anything all the time. You don't need to use any techniques. How often has something happened for you simply because you thought about it once and then you felt it real for a split second and then you let it go and it came about. And my favorite technique for living in the end is meditation. So I will meditate every day, and in meditation I will sit with whatever's coming up for me, and then I will ask myself in meditation, how would I feel if this was done? How would I talk to another person? How would I talk to my friends? How would I talk to my partner? How would I talk to my family? How would I perceive this circumstance? How would I get up in the morning? How would I go to sleep at night? How would I feel moving about my day? How would I carry myself? How would I think? How would I feel? Those are the questions that I ask myself in meditation, and then I try to carry that feeling with me throughout the day. And with that also comes the question, how do you treat your circumstances throughout the day? You know, when you see things that oppose the reality that you want to live from, how do you treat the things that arise that are completely opposite of that? Here, the important thing is not to stress about it. Imagination comes first. Again, you do it for the fun of it. You do it because it feels good. You do it because you want to feel it real, not to make something happen. So you're not fighting your circumstances. Just ask yourself, how would I perceive this from the state of being where my desire is already fulfilled? Living in the end is such a simple way of manifesting, to just enter that state of being, that sometimes it gets overcomplicated, and it is really easy, but it's only difficult if you start stressing about it, because that's when you create so much resistance around it. And if you notice that that is what happens, then it's fine not to live in the end. You know, then it's fine to take it step by step. Then it's fine to put it into the future or put it into the past or whatever resonates with you. See where you are and what you can believe the most and go there. And then when you can feel that as real, you can shift further if that is easier for you. So you want to take the stress away, you want to take the resistance away, you want to make it as easy for yourself as possible. Because I personally don't think you have to do it this one specific way or it doesn't work. Because if that's what you're telling yourself, then that's what's going to be the case. If you tell yourself it's not going to work out unless you imagine in this specific way or unless you use this specific technique, then that's what's blocking you from actually landing in the end result. It just makes you worry more, it just keeps you stuck in your head instead of just experiencing it right now, feeling it right now. And if you can land in the end result immediately without taking any steps in between, that's even better. It is so effective because once you hit that feeling, it releases all resistance immediately. You're immediately relaxed because you feel like it's done. And what I also want to make clear is that this is not about denying your thoughts or your emotions. Again, take the pressure off. If this is what you're doing, if you feel an emotion and you're rejecting it, you're lying to yourself and you're telling yourself that you're not feeling it or that you're not supposed to feel it or not allowed to feel it, that is not living in the end. That is being delusional and acting as if. It is a perspective shift, not an acting gig. If you have feelings come up and thoughts come up, I would suggest you to address those, to feel that, to let it flow through you, because it's temporary anyway. And often when people are stuck with manifesting a specific thing or person or experience and they're stuck for a really long time, then they haven't entered the end result. Then they are not living in the end. And what may be the case is that they are not addressing their true feelings about the thing, rejecting or denying whatever they are feeling. And that actually then blocks them from shifting into the end result in the first place. So don't deny what's going on for you. Feel it all, let it flow through you, and imagine the state that you want to be in just because it feels good, not to make something happen. And all of this brings me to a very important difference that Neville Goddard emphasizes, which is the difference between thinking of the end and thinking from the end. And here's another beautiful quote by the main man himself, which is, "Thinking from the end is the beginning of all miracles." So here are the differences. Thinking of the end is a state of wanting. You're separate from the end result, so you're thinking of it as something that you don't have. Thinking from the end is thinking from the state of having it already, from having experienced it, from having it in your reality. There is no separation here. It is already here. It is already a present fact. So thinking of the end implies that the desire is over here. You're waiting for it, you're wishing for it, you're waiting for things to change, you're looking for proof, you're not happy where you are. And thinking from the end is looking at your reality through the lens of the person who has already experienced that desire. You are one with your desire. You are not waiting for anything to change. You are not looking for proof. You are not analyzing or speculating when or how or even if. It is done. So thinking from the end is living in the end. It's really having full faith and full trust in the unfolding of what you want. You're not looking to fulfill a need. There's also an element of self-love here because you're allowing yourself to feel what you want to experience, what you desire, but you're giving it to yourself rather than waiting for external circumstances to fulfill that for you. So it is not about seeing it physically, experiencing it physically. That is a side effect of doing this, of living in the end, of entering that state. But it's not about the circumstance. It's about the way it feels, not the way it looks. And the way it feels is in your hands, regardless of what's going on outside of you. What I really want to emphasize is that you should not forget to live your life. You're not supposed to wait for things to change and put your life on hold until the thing appears physically in your reality. Live your life now and just embody the feeling, embody the state, because it's what you enjoy. If you have any more questions about living in the end, please leave me a comment below and also let me know what other topics you'd like me to talk about. Thank you so much for watching. I love you and I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day. I'll see you next time.